Chief marketing officers are looking for a return on investment, always. When they've made an investment in technology, such as Sitecore, they're looking to see the actual business value that they can get out of it. Today, I'm going to be taking you through some scenarios from the world of a CMO and the priorities they have, and trying to give some examples of how Sitecore, with the correct implementation, can give them the return on investment they need. We're going to start today by looking at some funnel analysis. So this is a visualization of what a website might look like from the point of view of a new customer. So we'll start at the top with a first-time visitor. And then moving down further the way, we have a customer adding a product to the basket. The next step after that is making their first purchase. And the final step on our funnel today is making the second purchase, a really important stage to understand whether a customer is going to become a browser, a single purchaser, or someone who eventually goes on to become a loyal and repeated customer, which is ideally the goal of any CMO. One of the best things about a funnel analysis is that it gives you a way to visualize the differences between these vital steps, these vital goals. So by having the data in front of us and having the percentages, we can see not only what percentage of people go from visitors to adding to basket, for example, but we can also look at the missing part of the percentage, which is those who don't perform that action. And that's where we have an opportunity as a chief marketing officer and within a marketing team to really optimize that process from a business point of view. So beginning with the top of the funnel, what we're talking about here is the number of people who will visit a website and ultimately go on to add something to the basket. And there may be some opportunity here when we look at that 75%, and more importantly, when we consider the 25% who don't add to basket, that there's a potential there that we can optimize product listings. So we can look at the website as it is, we can consider the way that search terms lead to listings, or potentially we can consider the call to action when adding an item to the basket and see if there's a way we can remove the friction from each of those steps. When we talk about optimizing the middle stage of this funnel, we're talking about the people who are adding items to a basket and then going on to make a purchase, or in the case of those missing from this percentage, those who never complete that purchase, sometimes known as basket or cart abandoners. The opportunity here for the CMO and the commerce team is to find a way to streamline that basket process. Maybe it's a lengthy 4 or 5 step process that eventually customers lose the time for. Maybe there's hidden shipping charges later in the process that confuse people. And maybe if they were up front, it would be a smoother experience. And by looking at that percentage, we can check that rate, and any changes we make, any modifications or improvements, if we see a percentage change there, that can easily be equated to real dollar value. Moving down to the bottom of the funnel, and the main thing we'll be talking about today, we can consider the difference between a first purchaser and a second purchaser. Knowing that second purchasers often go on to become third purchasers, fourth purchasers, and repeat purchasers, looking at that percentage and knowing that there is differences that can be made to influence whether or not someone's more likely to come back and make that second purchase, we have an extremely strong opportunity as a CMO and within the commerce team to make a very big difference to those group of people who continue to purchase. And one of the ways to do that is through the recommendation of a next appropriate product. And hopefully this is an example that is relatively familiar to you all. So what we're talking about today is upsell and cross-sell, something that is the essence of finding opportunities for customers who have already purchased something to either purchase a larger item or to purchase a set of items related to what they've already found. You may be familiar with this from the point of view of receiving messages or emails with a phrase that's something similar to people who bought X also bought Y. it is in essence a recommendation for something that you might be interested in. And everything we've talked about so far makes a lot of sense in theory, and any organization could benefit from employing these kind of strategies. But how do we actually build it for our business? Within Sitecore, this comes down to making several data sets work together at the same time. We start with contact data, so we need to understand who the individual people are, what their preferences are, what their permissions in terms of subscription are, and what their previous purchase history looks like. We then combine that with more detailed information about the actual products they've purchased, the number of items they purchased, how much revenue came from those purchases. We then tie that together with the catalog data. So we'll be looking at the relationship between two different items, how item types relate, and how they can be linked together in terms of recommendations. And then the final type of data comes down to the individual data points that we need to actually populate the dynamic email. So as we create this recommendation, it's going to be on a person-by-person basis, and it's going to be personalized to their recommendations. So to that end, we'll need data such as the title of the item we're recommending, a URL so they can click through to the link, and images to give a preview of the kind of thing we think we might be interested in. Okay, so far so good. In theory, sounds pretty easy, right? Let's have a quick look at how this would work as an example in Sitecore. To build this solution in Sitecore requires several pieces of the platform to work together. Beginning with marketing automation, we would use this part of the system to find the exact timing and define the correct triggers for when a recipient should be sent the message. Email Experience Manager will be used to house the HTML and to ensure the dynamic renderings are working correctly. List Manager may be also used to define the segmentation to understand who the people are that we're targeting. Campaign Manager can also be used to help define the goals, events, and outcomes that explain exactly who needs to be in that segment. Coming back to the funnel analysis, Campaign Manager and the goals, events, and outcomes can also be used within the funnel to understand which goals are being triggered, which ones are being missed, and where improvements are being made. Experience Commerce itself can be used to pull together the recommendations and also link the products together as they need to be shown to the customer. Looking forward to possibilities for the future, Cortex can also be used to train and create a machine learning model to enhance those recommendations. So how do we build this within Sitecore Commerce? To answer that question, I'll be passing over to my colleague Søren to show what solution he's built for you today.
Thank you, Ben. There are 3 scenarios and ways you can send product recommendations that we are providing. The first and the third option are based on customer purchase history. The second scenario, the selection of products is done by the marketer. The first option are initiated from marketing automation campaign, whereas the other 2 are initiated from segmentations. I'm going to dive into the first scenario now. Let me start by opening Marketing Automation and let's see what we have in there. So there's only one campaign that's created upfront, which is called Second Purchase, but which we won't be using for this demo. So let me go back and open Sitecore Desktop and open the content editor. So with Experience Commerce comes a storefront solution based on Sitecore Experience Accelerator, also known as SXA. It can create storefronts based on templates, and I have already created 2 storefronts in here. They are located here underneath tenant, as it's called in SXA, and I will take a closer look at the one called storefront. So the structure of a storefront is, according to SXA, you have different areas. You have the actual pages and content. You have media or links to media library. You have data, you have a dictionary, you have some presentation options and configurations, and you have settings. So let me start by trying to add a couple of modules to this instance. I'll launch the SXA scaffolding functionality, which will launch a dialog. And here we go. There are 2 campaigns available that I can select out of the box. One is for abandoned cart campaign, and the other one is for new orders placed. I'll choose them both and click OK. It'll take a couple of seconds for the scaffolding to finish. And there we go. So on the left-hand side, you noticed that we now have an email manager included in the storefront side. It's EXM's ability to have different mail managers for individual sites. And I will come back to how you configure that in just a second. Let me open Marketing Automation again. And now you will see that we have 2 new campaigns created. One called Abandoned Cart, the other one New Order Placed. Both of them prefixed with the name of the site itself, in this case Storefront. That is because we have a naming convention that it needs to apply to, so we can locate the campaign again and enroll people into it. Let me take a closer look at the New Order Placed campaign. It's super simple. We of course expect you to extend and customize the implementation to match your reality, but in this case this will do for the demo part. So there's your initial state that people are being enrolled to, and there's 2 send email actions. One for sending an order confirmation. We have a delay, and then we will send a mail for product recommendations to entice people to come back and purchase more. Let me start by going back and creating the 2 mail campaigns that we need for this. I open Email Experience Manager, click Create. Actually, before getting to this point, I would like to configure the storefront email mail manager item, because that's important. You need to ensure that you have the right URL that EXM needs for rendering your mail content. So I'll configure it as the base URL, and also for the preview, I want to embed images. I'll select that as well. I'll go to the company information, so I don't have to type it in multiple times. My company, an email, mycompany.com. Use the same for reply to and save it. So now when I go back to Email Experience Manager, I can choose Automated Email Campaign. This is important. When you trigger a mail from Marketing Automation, you need to use the Automated Email Campaign option. In this case, it's actually quite important. If I go back, you can see you have a drop-down, a selector of which mail manager you want to address. In this case, I didn't select the right one, so I need to go back, choose Storefront Emails, which is the new one, and click Create again. I will choose Automated Email Campaign. And now you see I have more options available because I added the modules to the site. I have one for abandoned cart, one for new order placed, and one for recommended products. I will go for the new order placed first. So for the name, I want to change it to order confirmation, so there's no doubt what it's about. I already have the information I typed in before, so that's all good. When I move to the next tab, I will see both the subject and the mail content. I can click on the mail content, which will launch a scaled down version of Experience Editor, where you can change your renderings, add renderings, change the content inline if you like, but also get a preview of what it looks like with mock data. It all looks good, so I'll just cancel and go to Delivery tab. I want to activate this mail campaign right away, so that's fine. I need to choose to have it personalized, meaning that renderings won't be cached. It will be rendering each time a mail is being sent, so I get the personalized information included. In this case, because it's an order confirmation, it's important that it's a service mail, so that people don't unsubscribe to it. Let me save it and activate it. Just take a couple of seconds. And now for the second mail campaign, which will be the product recommendations. Click create again, choose the same type of mail campaign. This time I'll choose product recommendations. The name is fine, the information is fine as well. When I go to the message, it looks slightly different. Now we have something that's applicable for a product recommendation mail. The body has changed, and we now see a list of product cards with mock data in it. That's all good and fine, so I'll just cancel and go to delivery. Same here. We want to activate it right away. We want it to be personalized, but this time it's not a service mail. It's something that people can unsubscribe to. Let me save it and activate it. All right. Let me mention that we have a developer tool called SMTP for Dev that we use that will actually catch all the mails going out, being sent, so we can see what's happening. Right now there's no mails, so let me go into Marketing Automation again. Choose new order placed. I need to deactivate the campaign in order to configure it. So let me select the first send email. From the dropdown, I can now choose the order confirmation I just created and click apply. I will change the delay from 14 days down to 2 minutes, so we don't have to wait 2 weeks. Click apply. And for the last send email, I will choose the recommended products that we also created just before. Click apply, click save, and now I activate it by setting a date. I'll click save, and as you can see under notifications, the campaign has been activated and cannot be edited, so we're good to go. At this point in time, I will swap role and become the customer that visits the website. I'm a registered user on this website, so I will authenticate. John Doe. Click authenticate. And I'm ready to purchase some products. So I'll go into camera category. I will choose this nice blue compact camera. It's in stock. That's good. I will add it to my cart. I will pick another product. I would like this activity tracker, which is also in stock, so I'll add that as well. And now I have 2 products in my cart. I will go to the shopping cart. It looks fine. I don't have a promotion code, so I'm good to proceed to checkout. First step of the checkout is delivery options. So let me pick ship items. Already created or registered an address, so I'll pick the office address. choose a shipping option, and continue to billing. Under billing, I will enter my credit card details and expiry date and validate it. Also need the billing address, which will be the same as the shipping address. Looks good. Got a little bit of discount. Now onto the review step. Everything is in order. Shipping, billing, address. Fine. I'll submit the order. The order has been placed. I can now go into my account. And you will notice I've been placing a few orders in here, and the latest is in pending state, which is this one, with the 2 products I just purchased. All right, I will go back to my campaign, and it will automatically shift to show the report view. So the gray boxes are the ones that have already been touched upon at this point. So the order confirmation should have been sent, and we are now in the delay state. Let's go to SMTP for dev tool and see if that's true. There's a new mail here that's been sent to me, John Doe, and it contains the order confirmation. It's personalized, it's got my name in it, it's got, of course, the order details that are unique to me, and that's good. So while waiting for the delay, I will try to show the other scenario. Let me open List Manager and choose Segmented Lists. In here, I pre-created a second purchase list. And it's based on a couple of rules. It's the first one being, if you ever placed an order, then if you haven't placed one within the last 2 weeks, or in this case 30 seconds, we will include you in this list. And as you can see, I have 3 customers that are in that are matching those criteria. So now let me go back to creating another email campaign using EXM. And in this case, when I click create, I want the regular email campaign. You can see I have 4 options instead of the 6 I had before, because abandoned cart and new order placed is not applicable here. But the recommended product is. I'll choose it and get a campaign that I will rename so I can tell the difference. The details are okay. I need to select recipients in this case. So I'll click the drop down and choose second purchase list that I just showed. I need to select it and go to message. The message is exactly the same, it's the same mail template, so no surprises here. It's good to go. So I'll go to the last step, delivery. And in this case, I don't want to schedule it. I want it to be a campaign I send out right now, so that's fine. Still needs to be personalized, so get the right content. But again, this is not a service email campaign, so I'll unselect that one. And click save. So before going any further, let me go back to Marketing Automation again, in order to see if our previous campaign is finished, and it is. The last sent email action is covered. And when I go to SMTP for that, I now got a second mail sent to John Doe. And in this case, it's the product recommendations. So we have the body itself, and we have some product that are recommended to John. So going back to our second scenario, I need to configure the mail that I'm about to send. So I'll go into email, messages, navigate to the one I just created, the bulk recommended products, which have some data items associated with it that goes with the renderings. So the one I'm interested in is the last one, the one that goes with the product recommendations. It contains a label, which I don't need to change at this point. It has a number indicating how many product cards I want to include in the recommendations. It has a field name that I can type in that are targeting the catalog relationship. But what I want to show is the product query. So I'll click product query or build query. I'll clear it. I will search for products. In this case, we have a field called commerce search item type. And I'll search for sellable item, also known as products. Gives me 5,700 results, which is a little too much. So I'll limit it because it's including all languages for that specific product. So I'll just choose the English versions. That reduced it to 1,400. And I will choose a specific brand, in this case, Mirror Laptops. So right now these conditions are all together. I need them to be ANDed together. So I'll click here until we see the plus sign. And we now have 24 results targeting the Mirror Laptops. That's good. Click OK and save it. Now I'm ready to go back into EXM and send the campaign, the mails. So under drafts, I have it, product recommendations. I go to the last step. And now I'm ready to click the send campaign. Yes. So status just changed to initialization, and we have a total of 3 recipients that are targeted. If I look at the notifications, it's also saying that it started processing the campaign and it's in initialization state, and now it's actually finished. Status is sent. So let me go back to SMTP for dev, and we can see that I have 3 mails going out to the 3 recipients with product recommendations that are applicable to them, in this case based on the query, the selection I did for Mirror Laptops. That concludes the demo part. So what does the plumbing look like for this? What's the flow of data and processes? What's the configuration options we have? And what is binding things together? So once the customer is visiting the storefront and starting to add products to the cart, we are using the API to enroll people into the abandoned cart plan. If and when the customer places an order, they will be removed from the abandoned cart plan and put into the new order placed. We're doing this using the Marketing Automation API, which saves it into a DB. At some point in time, Marketing Automation Engine will start to process the customers and the contacts in the campaign, and it will use the message bus to talk to EXM and tell it to start sending out the mails. In some cases, in a scaled setup, you need dedicated dispatch servers. The important thing here to notice is that as part of the send email action, we are passing on custom values. In this case, shop name and order ID, or card ID, depending on the plan that we are, or the campaign we are trying to enroll people into. As part of the API, we are executing pipelines behind the scenes. So when an order is placed, a number of processes are executed, and 2 of them are the ones showing here. We are removing the customer from the abandoned cart campaign, and this is a generic processor taking a parameter that tells which campaign to remove the customer from. The second processor that we're looking at is enrolling contact into new order placed campaign, also a generic processor. It takes a provider as a parameter that decides which campaign to enroll it in. And we are passing in a couple of configuration options as well, making sure that we're also processing anonymous customers as well as allowing people to be in the campaign multiple times. I'll get back to that a little later. So when using SXA, as we are showing here, you get some things for free. So the scaffolding part will go in and create the mail manager, as you saw. It will configure templates for mail manager so that when you click the create mail campaign, you will see the options to choose from. And of course, it's also creating the campaigns based on templates. So when you don't use SXA, you have to do something manually. The things mentioned above, but also when you create a campaign from Marketing Automation, it will automatically add a postfix containing an ID or a GUID. That GUID needs to be removed, or otherwise our naming convention will fail. We won't know which campaign to enroll people into. So what we've seen here is we have 3 scenarios, but we're still using one mail template, which is kind of cool. The recommended products mail message template can be used for all 3 scenarios. And the rendering is generic in that it can take a list of product IDs and render them. The actual products to recommend is resolved in the following order of priority. If there's an order ID passed in as a parameter, that takes precedence and is looked up. If that's not present, it will look at the query configured on the data item. If no queries is defined, it will look at the last order placed in the calculated facets, commerce, interactions cache. In terms of renderings, when you do a rendering for SXA, you get some things for free in the framework, but for EXM, you need to do it from scratch. There's no assistance. You need to include styling inline in the markup, and it's standard model view controllers with a repository pattern that you are following. So with Experience Commerce, we're providing a number of renderings out of the box. For order confirmation mail, we have order header, order lines, and order totals. For abandoned cart, we have cart lines and cart totals. And for product recommendation, we got the rendering you saw before. We have a couple of shared components for showing the logo, putting in a link to the site, and showing the mail body. So with Experience Commerce comes a foundation layer that's used by the commerce components for SXA, but it's also reused for the renderings in the mails. It consists of a number of things that you can reuse. There's a base product repository that contains methods for calling Commerce Engine and get the prices and stock information. There's a product entity class representing a product. There's a product view model that contains all the relevant product information, price, stock information, and variance. There's a product entity helper that contains helper methods for populating the product entity. And there's a provider implementation with an interface and a default provider for getting the products to recommend, as well as the processor and pipeline and processors that I showed before that are actually retrieving recommendations based on order ID, query, or last order placed. So when you are rendering the mail content, it's going on behind the scenes. There's no shop context. You are not doing it as part of a visitor visiting the site. So the commerce foundation layer needs the right context to get products and the content for the mails. Therefore, you need to switch context. In this case, for the user, the site, and the storefront. We are making this easy for you by having a setups commerce site context class that you can use for doing this. For the actual recommendations, it's provider-based, as mentioned. It has a generic interface and extensible parameters. It's a single method for retrieving the product IDs. It takes one parameter that can be extended and returns a list of IDs. The default implementation is order-based. Based on an order ID, it looks up the order placed and gets the product that has been purchased. It extracts the list of recommendations from the catalog relationships, and it accepts three parameters: order ID, number of product cards to show, and product relationship name to target. The idea is to use Cortex to integrate to a machine learning algorithm and continuously train it to learn from interaction data. We basically have two options here. One is to feed the recommendations back into the product relationships. That has a huge benefit in that it can be used both on the storefront itself. As customers are visiting the storefront, you can provide personalized recommendations based on their purchase history. And you can use it in mail messages, as we saw before. The other option is to call the service for the machine learning algorithm directly and get the recommendations from there. With the default provider implementation, the first option is implemented. If you want to call the machine learning algorithm directly, it will require a custom implementation. A few notes on enrolling customers into campaigns. Because we're doing it via code, we can actually include anonymous customers, which is important when they place orders doing anonymous checkout. We still need to send an order confirmation. We also need to enroll customers into the same order place campaign multiple times in case they haven't exited the campaign before the customer comes back and places a new order. This can happen in the same interaction or across multiple sessions. For this purpose, marketing automation needs a unique key to identify the contacts in the campaign, and the obvious choice here is to use the order ID as the key. So what have we shown in this demo? For marketing automation with experience commerce comes two campaigns, the abandoned cart and the new order placed. It also includes a number of activities in forms of actions and conditions. We have conditions checking for cart activity, whether the cart is empty and whether there's an email provided. In terms of actions, we have the send mail action that includes the custom values that we need for the cart ID and the order ID. We also have an action to send or trigger the abandoned cart event. For EXM, we are providing 3 layouts and MVC renderings. We have data templates that contains text and configuration options, and we have some templates that includes the layouts and the data as a branch template. We include actions for SXA scaffolding to configure EXM and create the instances of the campaigns from template. For List Manager, we have the calculated facet commerce interactions cache containing the history of orders placed, the carts that have been abandoned, the category been visited, the products that have been visited. And then we have, for now, a single rule that target contacts who have purchased a specific product, and more will come. In terms of Campaign Manager, we didn't really open the application or go into it because Campaign Manager is used indirectly by EXM to track the effectiveness of the campaign. And in terms of goals and events, we already have more than 40 defined by commerce, so we don't need to create additional goals for this. Commerce Engine, of course, plays a big part of it. The orders we get from the API. The catalog is provided using the data provider and index, and it contains the product catalog with products and relationships containing the recommendations. Pricing and inventory we get through the API as well. Last part is Cortex, which is really a topic for another session. But the idea here is to create a couple of tasks that are extracting the purchase data from interactions, transform and merge the data into a format consumed by the machine learning algorithm. Also to have a couple of jobs, one for executing the tasks and continuously feeding the algorithm with data. And the second one to iterate over catalog content, retrieve recommendations, and feed them back into the catalog as product relationships. So we covered the items we wanted to show. Thank you for listening.